access to training camp and the locker room. I mean, a lot of that is because of the work that Steve Sabol did early in his career.
Well, yeah, and all through his career, because there were times that there was a lot of pushback on that. There was a lot of pushback, from clubs, from coaches, from the league, and so it wasn't easy. I mean, he had to push down a lot of doors, and that was a great thing about Steve. And I think it goes back to the original thought. He was a good guy. So a good guy, can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and he's eventually going to get there because he's doing it as a nice guy.
John, it's one thing to cover a game. It's one thing to mic up a coach. I think it's a whole nother thing to tell the story. And that, to me, was the real genius of Steve Sabol, the way he was able, John, to tell a story.
Yeah, and that was what he could do, and that's the way that he looked at football. And, like I said, we were about the same age. We started about the same time, and we were, involved in pro football for the same number of years. But the way that he looked at it was totally different from the way that I looked at it.
John, not to switch gears here, but obviously this past weekend, and of course Monday night, the officiating, just crazy. When you watch that game on Monday night, in terms of the length, in terms of the uncertainty, just your thoughts on the officiating over the weekend.
Well, that it's not good, and it hasn't been good, and I think we can see the problem, and I think it's easy to define the problem. I mean, no one's saying that the officiating is good and the game is as good as it's been, because it's not. And I think the bigger thing than defining the problem is solving the problem. What are you going to do about it? And that's where we're at an impasse now. I mean, what do you do about an impasse? I mean, what should they do if the officials say, like you guys were talking earlier, if the officials, it's a pension thing, and if the officials say if we don't get that, we're not going to officiate, and if the league says we're not going to give it to you, now what do you do? I mean, I think those are the things that kind of have to be talked about. Is we can define the problem. It's a problem. It's not good. No, it's not good. They're doing the best job they can, and I agree with that in some areas. In some areas, I don't. I think that they're better controlled, and I think that we ought to know the rules. That just drives me crazy when a guy calls a penalty, and then has a rule that's not a pro football rule. They shouldn't be doing that. And the other thing, I know they're Division III, they're semi-pro, they're high school. I mean, they're all these things, so it's not the best. So to say it's a problem to beat that to death, I mean, that's been done. I mean, that's a pinata, and it's been beaten all over the place, and it's hard to defend. But how do we solve it? What do we do about it? I think that's the next thing. I think that's the bigger thing if we're going to talk about that.
Have you talked to the commissioner? Have you talked to anyone, John, in the league office?
Yeah, I've talked to him, and I think there's two things. I have nothing to do with labor negotiations, so I don't know anything about that. I don't know exactly where they are, if they're anywhere. But the one part in solving the problem is, okay, we have this, and we have to live with it. I mean, this is what it is. Until we get the other officials here, we have to live with it. Now, living with it, how can we make it better? What can we do? I felt the first week, I felt coaches coming on the field. I felt coaches were kind of,